Good morning and welcome to Unity of Walnut Creek. Can I hear a good morning? There we go. So happy to see your smiling faces, and we're so happy to have special guest musicians. We have Emma's Revolution with us today. So please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing Seed.
Take the seed that you have and plant it here. Give it water and time for a day or a year. Take the seed that you have and plant it here. Give it love, give it love, give it some love, give it love, give it love, give it love, give it love. That you have and dream it here. Give it courage and time for a day or a year. Take the dream that you have and dream it here. Give it love, 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 give it love.
I call you kids because we know kids are pure of heart, right? And all of you are pure of heart. So good morning, kids. Good morning. As some of you have already said, my name is Ron, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here to Unity of Walnut Creek to our Sunday services. And we're so glad that you are with us this morning. We are pleased to have Emma's Revolution, which you just heard. And they are accompanied by the bros in the corner, Tyler and Dan. Emma's Revolution is a dynamic, award-winning activist duo of Pat Humphreys and Sandy O, whose songs have been sung to the Dalai Lama, praised by Pete Singer, and covered by Holly Near. That's a great trinity, isn't it? and they bring their uprising of truth and hope to concerts. Emma's Revolution are winners of the grand prize in the John Lennon Songwriting Contest and the first Phil Oakes Award. Their music has been featured on NPR's All Things Are Considered and Pacific's Democracy Now! The duo has been featured performers at the Parliament of the World's Religions, performing to the audience of 10,000. So find out much more about Emma's Revolution on the patio after today's service, and their boutique is just outside by the bookstore, and you'll know why I called it a boutique when you go out there. So please visit them. And help me introduce Pat and Sandy. Thank you very much. So now I invite you to turn your cell phones to silence as we enjoy this sacred service together. Please join me by turning to the camera and waving hello to our friends at home. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Please know that your presence adds to our community here at Unity of Walnut Creek, so thank you so much for being here. And as most of you already know this, but I'll say it anyways, Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. Can we say that together? Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. And here at our spiritual home, we have a mission, and that mission is this. In loving community, we empower spiritual growth by modeling and teaching universal spiritual principles. And so it is. Yes. It is, right? Yeah, it sure is. I was going to say amen, but I said, no, that's old school. I better go with, and so it is. But anyways. So now it's time to do our statement of faith. I invite you to join me in affirming our belief of our oneness. And so if you would just take a deep breath into your hearts, and as you release it, we're going to say thank you. So just take a deep breath and let it fill your heart space. And then let it go and say thank you. And let's say our statement together. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. And just soak that in and know it to be true. And as we welcome our newcomers, I invite the ushers to come forward. If you are with us for the very first time, thank you so much for being here. And we ask if you please raise your hand so an usher can bring you a welcome packet. If you would rather, you may pick up a packet at the welcome table. There is a connection card in your packet. Please take it to our bookstore to receive a special gift. We hope you will choose to stay and meet some of us on the patio after service. And so in the seat pockets in front of you are connection cards, and they are available for everyone. With this card, you may submit a prayer request, and our prayer team will pray with you throughout the week. You may also share feedback or request information. So please place your card in the basket with the offering. And now it's our favorite time. It says here, greet your neighbor, but I say it's huggy, huggy time. So please ask first if people want hugs.
I did. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom.
Sing that with us.
Peace, salam, shalom. 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 We believe in 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 peace, salam, shalom. We will work for 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 peace, salam, shalom. Jerusalem, Ramallah, in Tel Aviv, in Washington, in Gaza City, in Cairo, in Charlottesville, in Tripoli. We believe in peace. 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 Salam shalom. Peace, salam shalom. Peace, salam shalom. Peace, salam shalom.
Hi, kids. So it's announcement time. Excuse me for a second while I find the announcements. Okay. It says here, hello, my name is Ron. We have several activities happening here at Unity, but we all know that, right? So we are very excited that Matthew Fox is coming to Unity. All right. He will be here on March 24th. Don't miss this opportunity to experience this world-renowned, cutting-edge theologian. He will be here for our morning services, and he will have an afternoon workshop. He will share exciting spiritual information and have an interactive Q&A section during the workshop. Okay. Is there any other Q&A section that's interactive? I'm awake now. I didn't notice that at the 9:30, but anyway. So let's imagine having an hour with St. Francis of Assisi to learn how you can use the power of love to become an instrument of peace in this troubled time. Join us on Saturday, March 30th for one-man musical with James Twyman, followed by a discussion of St. Francis and how his message applies to us now. So you may pick up a flyer on the patio for more information on both these exciting events, as well see your bulletin for more information about these and other events at our center. And now I'd like to invite Reverend Kristen to the platform.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, it's amazing how you bless and multiply from the beginning to about this time of the service. When I stand up and turn around again, it's like, wow, okay, there they are. So we've got some really exciting things coming, as Ron just told you about Matthew Fox and James Twyman. And this week, we have some really great classes starting. So we have a 5-week class session for you. The first class is actually starting 1 week later. We can bring that slide up again, Brian, thanks. So the first class is John Shin's class on Monday nights. If you either took the previous class, or maybe you heard the buzz about the previous class, this is really wonderful, experiential, and John is full of knowledge about bowls and harmony and sound and light and crystals. So if any of that speaks to your heart, please show up and enjoy the class with John Shin and your classmates. On the Tuesday night session, we have Jenny Landfield returning, and she's been bringing this deep peace, this sense of rest to us since the solstice service. And that's kind of the theme of this: one simple change can make life easy. It's always bound to be creative and fun too with Jenny. So Tuesday night, you might check out that class. And Thursday night, do you remember the guy that received $100 here? Oh no, that was the 9:30 service. You change on me, Dimitri. Dimitri's in the back. Dimitri Durankin is one of our board members, and he's got so much experience, so many years of studying different religions that brought him to the unity path, and also the unique process of being a Russian immigrant to the United States. And the process that he said really shaped that for him is the idea that, yes, I can. Yes, I can do it. And so whatever it is that's up in your life as a goal or a desire, Dimitri's going to be there to coach you along the way to know that, yes, I can do this. So show up for Dimitri's class on Thursday nights if that's speaking to you. Also, next Sunday, we have a New to Unity orientation, and that's a time to just connect. I'll be there. Maybe some folks who've been around for some time will be there. I invite all of you to come and share some of your Unity experiences. We'll have some light snacks. It's St. Patty's Day. Maybe we'll have some green food. Who knows? And if you're new, or, a lot of you I speak to are returning after a long period of time, because, we've been around here for 70 years, so you may have come and gone and come back. Thank you, God. We're so happy you came back. So you might want to come to New to Unity, because you may feel new with all the new faces that you're seeing around. So please do show up next Sunday at 1 o'clock. It'll be about an hour, and we'll just spend some time getting to know each other and having some snacks and talking about next steps if you want to go further into the Unity Basics class. Thank you. And now I want to invite CL Gerke up, who's our co-coordinator of the Prayer Chaplain program. And CL is going to share a reading with us to begin our meditation time. And it'll be followed by some guided meditation and music.
Oneness. We are all expressions of the one Spirit. Physicists tell us that every particle is connected to every other particle in the universe. The same is true for humanity. Nobody is separate or set apart. No one is superior or inferior. We all come from the same divine source. The inner light that births us and sustains us also unites us in love and spiritual purpose. How can we best access this oneness that guides us and heals us? When we focus on our heart, we find our connection with every other soul. In our oneness with God, we find our oneness with every other soul along the path of life. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. Luke 10:27.
smiling face, outstretched hand, through disputes, small and grand, we will lay down our guns. We are one. In the rage, through the war, we have shared pain before. In our grief, when it's done, we are one. Where the earth touches sky, we are born, we all die. Where the clear waters run, we are one. In the soft of the night, we are learning not to fight. In our hearts, in the drum, we are one. In the birth of a child, through the fears and the might, in our daughters and sons, we are one. Where the earth touches sky, we are born, we all die. Where the clear waters run, we are one. In our daughters and sons, we are
So it is in this deep knowing of our oneness that we rest. From birth to death, and before birth and after death, and all along the moments of this precious life, there are these opportunities and these moments when we feel the oneness. When we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are always connected to the one, and therefore each other and all life. Every time we take a breath and remember with thanksgiving this life that we have, and in unition, the idea that we are not only one with spirit, but therefore one with life, that every breath is a breath that is taken with all the humans across the planet, with the frogs down in the babbling brooks and the ravens in the high trees, trees themselves, the flowers that blow in the wind and all their multicolored beauty. The Mother Ocean and the high mountains. And all the faces of the people around the world, from infants to elders. In that one breath, we can know that oneness. And with that one breath, there is a great blessing given and received. And so let us breathe in and out in oneness, in unition with all life, in the silence. And so with every breath that we have been given like a blessing, and that we give forth as a blessing, let's take a moment to allow the love from our heart to beam out into the world. See the diverse faces of humanity, different forms and shapes of bodies and faces and colors and ages and abilities. And each one a great circle across the planet, connected heart to heart and hand to hand, mind to mind, and breath to breath. And sure as the soles of our feet stand upon this earth together, so too does the love for our home and each other unite us. Thank you, God, for the beauty of the diversity of all life. We bring forth the animals and the plants into our circle of love. We beam that love from every heart all around, creating a great web of oneness. And we all together say thank you to the God of many names, to the one source from which we come and we return and we remember in between. And so it is.
together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone, I am searching, hungering for answers in my time. I am balanced at the brink of wisdom. I am impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection, it be my crime. In humility I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living beneath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, binding intuition, my head, my heart, I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who have come before me, band together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living in the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share have been with us since life's beginning, and we never noticed they were there. We can balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living in the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side.
Is that your song? Did you? Wow, I heard that song so many times before I met you. Yeah, I didn't know it was yours. That's beautiful. Yeah. So I met Emma's Revolution at the Parliament of World Religions in 2015 in Salt Lake City, and had the great pleasure of then interviewing them on what I had a radio show at the time called Soulstream. And I also met these three men, the interfaith amigos. It's a Muslim imam, a Jewish rabbi, and a Christian pastor. I always feel like I'm beginning a joke when I put those three together, and they are full of joy, so I guess that's not too far from the truth. And these three men they've become friends, and then they kind of travel around together and present together what they found becoming friends across these different religions, and they're really steeped in their own religions. And I was especially intrigued with some of the things that Imam Jamal shared, who's the Muslim imam. He said that it had actually, that interfaith relationship with the other two men had strengthened and deepened him, made him a better Muslim. And he also said that, I had asked him, what is jihad? I mean, let's put this thing to rest. What is this thing called jihad, He said, oh, holy jihad. He said that's like the battle, the internal battle of lessening the ego and empowering the spirit. I thought, boy, that sounds like familiar theology. We have much more in common than we think. Always. Always. If we just knew that one thing and just held that one belief everywhere we went, I have much more in common with the person across from me, or the person I'm thinking is so different from me, or those people, whoever those people are, us and them, when we get into that. If we just thought for a moment, wait a second, I have much more in common with this individual than I think. So could I just look for the common ground? What if we all did that? I would do one of these, but then it might hurt this. Well, I just did, but and it didn't hurt. That's good news. So this informing each other, like the Interfaith Amigos did, this informing ourselves, making friends with the other, the one who we don't know as much about, or the thing that we don't know so much about, is a key to the practice of inclusivity, which really leads us back to the base belief and understanding and memory of the truth that we know in spirit, that we are all one, and one with the one. Of course, that is all one, right? And back to that oneness, that grounding of oneness. That's where we return. That's that place in that beautiful song in the meditation where, that place where earth and sky touch, where we are born and where we die. But it's also what we carry with us in our hearts throughout every step of this beautiful life, is that base knowing that we are all connected in this way, connected through love. How many of you have ever felt like an other? Yeah. And if you didn't raise your hand, you probably have, and maybe don't realize it, or didn't feel like raising your hand. Either way, this is fine. All are welcome here. So I want to just give you a moment to just drop into your hearts, and maybe close your eyes if you want, and just see if you can get in touch with an experience, a time when you have felt like an other. Just allow yourself to feel the feeling of being the other in this situation. And you might want to return to this meditation if nothing came at this time. But any of you have an experience? Anybody have a feeling that came with being an other, how that felt? You can just say it out loud if there was a feeling. Rejected? Alone? Embarrassed? Uncomfortable? Sad? Tightening, like a tightening in your body. Scared? Shut down. Okay. Challenged. Dismissed. Wandering and searching. There was like a simultaneous 3 people over here. What was that? Different. There was someone else here? Unworthy. Wow. Can you feel that? What it feels like to be an other. And when we can remember what that feels like, remember the golden rule, it's in all the religions, do unto others as you would have done unto you. When we remember that touchstone of what it feels like to be an other, we won't ever otherize again. Because that's not what we want to bring into the world, is it? No. It's not what we're about at all. So we've been learning alongside with Sharif Abdullah's work, Dr. Sharif Abdullah, through the class that I just finished, Practicing Inclusivity. It's actually called Toward Oneness, the Practice of Inclusivity. And so the idea that we're coming toward that experience of that knowing that we have, that underpinning of oneness, but it takes practice, right? It takes practice to get it. It takes the celebration of diversity and the practice of inclusivity to get us there. And so in many ways, the work and the class was real, and sometimes the conversations were difficult, but we moved through it because we were all as a whole committed to really growing and learning and shining a light on this shadow of other. That's the series we're in, by the way, the Illumined Shadow series. This is our third week. So the first week we looked at the shadow of anxiety and moved it to peace. And then last week, the shadow of lack, moving it to abundance. These are shadows for ourselves personally, but very much collectively in our world. And then today, that shadow of other, moving it to oneness. So, of course, this is a picture of Sharif. And Sharif was kind of patched into our class through Zoom and did a little webinar with us. And he told us a bunch of stories, but one of the stories he told me really moved me that I want to share with you today. He's been much of his career doing this work of inclusivity, and he's done it all over the world. He's one of the most multicultural guys I've ever met. And he was telling this story about a time he was presenting at an inclusivity conference in Russia. And he went out the door and forgot to comb his hair. And so he went back and he just, popped in the hotel room and had the door still open in the hallway as he was combing his hair. And this Russian guy comes by who he had had a little bit of interaction with in some of the sessions and says, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm combing my hair." And the guy said, "You don't have any hair." He said at the time, actually, he did have hair, more hair. He said, "Well, no, I have hair. It's just short. It's close to my head." He goes, "But I want it to all go the same direction." And so then the man says, "Can I touch your hair?" And he's thinking, kind of weird, but okay. So the man begins to touch his hair and his beard, and another man comes down the hallway and says, "Can I touch your hair?" And so he's got two different people touching his hair and his beard, one on each side. Another man comes by, this is a true story, and says, "Can I touch your skin?" And he asked us in the class, how many of you know that black and white and brown skin is just skin? It all feels the same. But he said, I realized that these people had maybe never interacted with somebody of African descent. And so he said, I was of two minds with this. On one hand, this is really weird and bizarre. And on the other hand, I have curiosities about people who are really different from me. And so this is a cultural learning experience. So the other guy is now touching his skin. And before you know it, there's a line down the hall. And he just went with it, And this story is, for me, so moving. When I was thinking about this morning, I actually was crying before I came this morning. I told Brentley, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get through this story, but if you get into it enough, you get a hold of yourself a bit. But I guess what's so moving for me is that it's so tender and so vulnerable and so open and so here's a guy who's been probably discriminated against all of his life because of his skin and his hair. And he's just opening himself up to a whole culture to say, go ahead, touch me. Experience this. Experience the difference so we can connect heart to heart. Build that bridge and let the shadow of otherness be illumined so that we can experience the truth of oneness that is always there. I've always cared a lot about equality. I'm sure you have too. And I remember when I was a young woman in my 20s, I wanted to change the world. Anybody have that kind of zeal when you were in your 20s? I talk to my niece now and I'm like, okay, take a breath, slow down. I just see mini me there, But, you know, it's like we get that zeal. We just see where there's inequalities and we want equality. We see where there's pain and we want to bring hope and compassion and kindness. You know, that's just who we are. That's how we're wired. And I was praying about this, and along came this. I just happened to hear this senator. He was a senator at the time in New Jersey. Before that, he was a New York Knicks professional basketball player. His name is Bill Bradley. And he said, if you want to really make a difference in terms of race, and it could be any kind of otherness, he said, befriend somebody of the other. He basically said, befriend somebody of another race. He was talking about it in that context. And so I kind of just cast that as a prayer. You know, I had lots of acquaintances and coworkers. I was in a world of diversity. I was living in Chicago. I worked in a very diverse place. We served Chicago public school teachers, very diverse clientele. So I was experiencing diversity around my life, but I didn't have really close friends that were of different backgrounds. And so I just kind of cast that out there, as that really made a lot of sense to me when I heard what he said. And I thought, well, that's something I can do. I don't really know how to sign up for all the activism, and I'm not even sure that that's totally my thing, but this is something I could do. And so, you know, as Spirit would have it, things were quite different than what I thought they would be, and life started to unfold in a whole new kind of direction for me. And suddenly, I became an other in a way that I had never been before, because I fell in love with a woman, and she was black. And boy, did I get a schooling in privilege, in otherness, in everything that I had asked for. You know? We never, you know, be careful what you pray for, right? It's not always easy, but it's good. And it really helps us learn and grow in all kinds of ways. I mean, I learned things that I would have not otherwise known. And in some of it, you know, when you love somebody deeply, you hear it in a whole different way, right? You hear the stories in a whole different way. So when she told me about she and her sisters being followed around in the stores, the same stores I had shopped in, I'd never had a shopkeeper or an employee follow me around. It's like, really? I mean, I was that green. It was just like, what? How could that be? How could that have happened to you? Why would that have happened to you, you know? Or I wasn't afraid to, you know, drive a few miles over the speed limit. I didn't think, you know, I was going to get stopped for a ticket, or far worse. And so I would, you know, we used humor a lot. We'd say, "Your people," you know, a guy walking in the winter in shorts and a down jacket. I mean, that's a common sight in California, but in Chicago it was less common. She'd say, "Your people," you know. And one time, you know, she also, you know, just coming into my family, right? So in my family, she would use humor. So she would come and visit, and this was all new for my parents. I mean, my poor parents had to deal with me and all the otherness I was bringing with my sexuality. And then, you know, and then the first person I bring home is a different race, and we live in this lily white suburb, you know. And so they're doing the best they can, right? Treading water. And, well, I had a Mexican boyfriend before that, so it was, you know, the way had been paved. And anyway, woo, am I turning red now? So, yes, I am. Yeah, okay, great. And then when I say it, it gets worse. Anyway, bear with me. Be with me here so I don't feel like an other. So she would say things like, you know, my mom would say, you know, "Do you want to go to church with us?" And she'd say, "Oh, Mrs. Powell, all the for sale signs are going to be up for all your neighbors and all the way to church," you know. I mean, stuff like that, you know, it's funny, and then it's like, oh, not so funny. But it's a way to illumine shadows, you know, and when we laugh, are we not one? I mean, there is no other when we laugh. We are in oneness when we laugh together. And so it's the beauty of those moments of humor and kindness and love that melt it all away, you know? The most poignant experience I probably had with Dawn was when we went to visit some friends in Cincinnati, and we were flying into Louisville first. And our friend said, you got to stop at this diner. It's really fantastic. And we were coming in about breakfast time, and we love a good diner. So we were like, okay, great. And we walk in, and everybody's talking and eating, and there's that click-clack sound of plates and forks and knives, and it becomes like, could drop a pin. And everybody watches us walk through the restaurant to get to the table. And it's like, what is going on here? I've never walked into a diner and had that experience before. So I do not know what's going on here, but I'm not okay with it. And Dawn says, once we get seated, she's like, let's go. And I'm like, let's go? Oh, no, we are not leaving. And I get on the righteous soapbox of somebody of privilege who has no idea how scary this feeling is. And I say, oh, no, you have every right to be here. We are here. And I thought, well, maybe they think we're a couple, too. I don't know what's going on, but she clearly does. She's been down this road many times before. And so there's just this tension you can cut between us in the room, the kind of reticence of the server to come serve us. It's just like everybody's watching everybody, and she is the other in the room. And we keep having this under-the-breath conversation, She's like, let's go. And I'm like, nope, we're not going to leave. We're going to squat here, and we're going to have breakfast, and we're going to enjoy it. Yeah. But when she would say my full name, I knew she meant business. And she did one of those, and one of those, like, where your lips kind of go in, and you get that little grimace. And I got it, and I said, I didn't really get it, but I got that we were leaving, and that I needed to comply. And still in the car, I was still kind of on my tirade of how we had a right to be there. Of course we had a right to be there. Of course everybody has a right to go everywhere, right? This was 1992. I mean, I'm not talking 1950. This was, pretty contemporary times. But I don't know what it feels like to feel that unsafe when I'm an other. I mean, I do, actually. Maybe not quite that in the same way, but I have had similar experiences. And you probably have too. And that's the point. We can all access, even though we don't walk in the same shoes, we can all access some kind of time when we have felt scared because we are the other. And we can also access times we have made others other, right? We can access the times that we all have privilege of some kind, so we can understand where our privilege is. And when we shine the light upon our privilege, do you know what we do for the world? If we only did that much, if we only said, I will educate myself enough to understand the kind of privilege with which I walk through the world, that humility alone can save lives. I'm not being dramatic. Can heal what ails us. And so our willingness to just befriend who and what we don't know and to uncover or recognize some of our privilege, I mean, we're almost all the way back to oneness with those two steps. There's so much we can do to heal the world simply by being the love that we came to be and making a little effort to make bridges across these seeming divides. So Sharif said, in this practice, this is probably the takeaway that we all took in that class that he did with us, that in this practice, you're gonna get it wrong. And that's okay. You're gonna get it wrong. I got it so wrong in that diner. And I still had it wrong in the parking lot. And I probably still had it wrong a day later. But I started to awaken to that truth. And there are going to be times when we just get it wrong. And that's okay. Because you know what we're doing? We're out there. We're making a difference. We're bringing our courageous hearts out into the world, and we're being willing to try, willing to make a difference, willing to heal and to bridge these differences that ail us, this shadow of other. And that's all we can ever ask of ourselves, really, isn't it? To try, to do our best. it's really about understanding. You know, we have this 12 spiritual powers in Unity, and one of them is understanding, that idea of spiritual understanding, of spirit standing under us, and that when we stand upon that understanding of oneness, we stand upon truth, we stand upon love. Remember when Lin-Manuel Miranda received an award for Hamilton, and he gave this really wonderful, passionate speech, and I just remember the end of it. He said, "Love is love is love is love is love," and he couldn't stop saying, "Love is love." And that's it, right? It's calling upon that great power of love and understanding. That's what really does it for us. Anybody know who Cameron Kasky is? Cameron Kasky is one of the young people, the teenagers from Parkland, who have, co-coordinated and created the movement March for Our Lives. And he was one of the head kids in this. He basically left school, did school online, and spent, and is still doing this work. But he's actually had a change of heart. So in his work, often one of the tools that we have is to say no to whatever it is we think is not working for us. And citizens often have been the spark of the abolition of slavery and the movement of civil rights and the movement to get women a vote and the Clean Air and Water Act. All of that came out of a citizen spark of saying no to one thing and yes to another. So there is some, of course, effectiveness to that kind of approach. But what Cameron has found through his experience with March for Our Lives is there's something else. Because if we keep pushing against each other and just saying, I'm right, you're wrong, you're the other, and you have the wrong idea, the immoral idea, and he said we just attack each other's worst arguments. That's what we do. We just go back and forth on the worst of each other's arguments to prove that we're right. Where are we going to go with that? Not very far, right? And so this young man, since the age of 17, has had this major experience and now a transformation. And he's recognizing now that what we really need is common ground. And so now he's going to the so-called other side and having conversations with people about guns. Because he wants to educate himself, and he wants to understand, and he wants to build bridges, and he wants to make a difference. He said, nobody wants kids to die. That's common ground, right? So where do we go from there together to make it all work? So I want you to watch this, or I want to share with you just this short interview. He's asked what's changed for him.
A different type of empathy for my fellow human being. And I've learned that I don't know everything. I mean, I was a 17-year-old boy. I was an entitled, privileged 17-year-old boy. I thought I had all the answers. I thought the world should have been lining up at my door to hear what I had to say. And then I realized, no.
Before or after? I'm sorry, you mean like
after
while
everything.
during?
Yes, after everything.
Yeah.
But, I think we all need to look at each other in a different way. I think we all need to realize that we're all people. I mean, for God's sake, we're all people. If somebody comes up to me and starts, I've used a similar, example before, but if somebody starts beating up the person next to me, I'm going to defend the person next to me, even if I don't know what their political views are. We're all human beings. We need to start focusing on that more, and it's hard. It's very, very difficult because so often principles and ethics bleed into our policy. That's how it works. Policy affects human lives. But we have to remember that many of us have the same goal.
What do you think that goal is?
A better life for everybody in the world.
Yeah. And the children shall lead them, right? Yeah. Great wisdom from this young man, just a teenager still, and all those kids. I mean, there's a huge group of them that are doing amazing work in the world. But it comes down to this, doesn't it? It comes down to this very essence of love. If there is sin, well, there is sin, but what we understand sin to be is just making a mistake, right? Missing the mark. But the greatest of those, if we could say like the deepest mistake we could make, is to believe in separation. Because it is when we believe in separation that we drive all these wedges that create all the war and conflict and stuff in the world that we don't want to have. So it's coming back to the recognition of oneness, is coming back to the recognition of there I am. When I judge, there I am. When I praise, there I am. to see one another as reflections, because that is exactly what we do for each other as we grow, is we hold up a mirror, right? So one day Brenly comes home and she says, I tailgated myself all the way home. It took me a minute. I went, huh? Oh, right. There I am. Yeah. And wouldn't it be great if every day we come home and we say, I loved myself all day long? Because that's really what we've signed up to do, right? To love one another as I have loved you, as Jesus said. And also said, he who is without sin cast the first stone. I mean, this master teacher was a teacher of exactly this: inclusivity, oneness, love. So all we have to do is just these simple reminders of ourselves to remember what it feels like to be another, to befriend that which we don't know or who we don't know, and then to just sort of open ourselves up with curiosity, with a willingness to share, to recognize where we have privilege. Those three things, if we do those three things, befriending what and who we don't know, recognizing our privilege, and what was the other one? And remembering what it feels like to be the other. Those three things will really allow us to move into this truth of oneness and away from this belief in separation that is false anyway. So there we are. We're not just our brothers and sisters keepers. We aren't our brothers and sisters keepers, really, ultimately. I mean, we are in terms of care for one another. But we are our brothers and sisters. We are our neighbors. Let's know that simply together. I think it might be the simplest affirmation I've ever given you, but maybe a tough one to really embody. But let's embody this one together and say it. I am my neighbor, and so it is.
Let's be one breath for a moment. You can do either of those notes. Which one fits in your range? Oh, the world were peaceful now and forevermore. Peaceful at the surface and peaceful at the core. All the joy within my heart would be so free to soar. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living star. I don't know where we're going, but I know we're going far. We can change the universe by being who we are. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living star. If all the world knew justice now and forevermore, justice at the surface and justice at the core. All the joy within my heart would be so free to soar. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living star. I don't know where we're going, but I know we're going far. We can change the universe by being who we are. And we're living on a living planet.
Thank you. Kristen, Reverend Kristen. Thank you for sharing your heart and for showing us the both sides of the other. Our prayer chaplains are available after this service to provide personal prayer support. If you are a prayer chaplain serving today, please stand. Ooh, cool, we got a crowd. Thank you so much for your service. Our prayer chaplains wear the lavender stoles, as you saw. Whether you have a joy or a concern on your heart today, praying with your prayer chaplains is a powerful opportunity to have your intentions raised up in consciousness. And now it's time for our prosperity celebration. Okay, one more time. Wait, let's get it going. Now it's time to do our prosperity celebration. Yeah! All right, that's better. That's my crowd. Okay. So now let's open our hearts to the practice of giving. I invite you to prepare your gifts as we align with the universal law of circulation. As we give, so shall we receive. In truth, there is no lack of limitation. Abundance is our true nature. Say that with me. Abundance is our true nature. For your convenience, there are a variety of ways to financially give to this community. For credit card donations, use Push Pay on your smartphone, or take an envelope from the clipboard in the back of each chair. Those of you at home can also use Push Pay or click the donate button on our webpage. I invite you to take your tithe or offering in your hand, and we will repeat our affirmation together. And together, one with me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful.
Feel free to sing any version of this song that you know, and it'll work. Resistors all over this land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. Danger, I'd ring out warning, I'd ring out love between all of the resistors all over this land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this all of the resistors all over this I got a hammer, and I got a bell, and
I like that version. Oh, thank you, Spirit, for the joy, for the music that lifts our hearts as one, for the harmonies that we make together in so many ways every day. When we walk out our door, we walk out knowing, there I am, everywhere we go, whoever and whatever we encounter. And we do our very best to be the very essence of love. And this abundance that we hold here is a symbol of that overflowing love, pressed down to shaken together and spilling over out into this world to make it the place of oneness that we've always known it is. Let's bless it together. We give thanks for the ever-increasing, unceasing flow of absolute good in our lives now. So it is. Whoa, look at this crowd. Michelle, do you want to tell us a little bit about what went on in the other room with this crowd?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. We have had a lot of fun today, and we made something. Do you want to tell them what we made? Do you want to tell them what we made?
We made boxes.
We made boxes. What kind of boxes did we make today?
God boxes.
God boxes. And what are we going to do with them, Elle?
We are going to put prayers in them, and God will answer them for us.
That's right. But we left the most important part. We haven't intoned our boxes yet, so we wanted to ask all of you to help us intone our special God boxes with a single ohm. Can we do that together?
Yes.
Okay, so hold your boxes out. Kids, hold them up so everyone can see them. All right, ready?
Beautiful.
1, 2, 3. Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us participate. Do you want to share about YOU?
Well, the subject of chakras came up, so we all wanted to know a little bit more about those. So one of the kids pulled out the phone to look at the internet and see what they said about chakras, which is fine. And it was hard. There wasn't really good information. And one of them said, God, I really wish I just had a book. And I thought, hallelujah, the printed word is not dead.
Let's bless our children and youth and teachers together. Children, youth, and teachers, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divine light within you. And now I invite you to take your neighbor's hand, if you're comfortable doing so, as we close out with the prayer of protection and the peace song. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and I am divine. we are the light and the love and the on earth right now. So let's go out and shine our lights and have fun.